When you think of the city of Syracuse, you might think of the dreary weather, the businesses struggling to stay open, and a dilapidated infrastructure. But even amidst a depressed economy and a disagreeable climate, there's one flame that refuses to go out. The music. For decades, the Syracuse music scene has brought life, energy, and passion to Central New York. I set out to find out how and why music thrives in a city best known for its harsh winters. There are lots of factors, but a major one is community support. From panel sessions to award ceremonies to local venues, there's a strong foundation for aspiring artists in the community. Check out this initiative designed to provide support for local talent. This group took over Funk and Waffles downtown for an evening of musical education, but it wasn't your typical music class.
Check, check.
Panels made up of key players in the local music scene talked to an audience of artists, students, and community members about how to make it in the biz. Chris Baker gave some pointers from his perspective as a music and entertainment reporter for the Post-Standard and Syracuse.com.
I think the best way to get your music out there and to build fans is to just play as often as you can and at as many different places as you can. Don't just be that band that plays Monday nights at the same bar every week. That's cool, there's nothing wrong with that, but get out and play different places where you might find new audiences, people who go to whatever, like come play here, play Dinosaur, play Shifties, play Lost Horizon, get out to as many places as you can and find new audiences by getting in front of them, I think.
Matt Dunn is a promoter for Syracuse Shows, a company that books local acts for local venues. He countered Baker's point by advising artists not to oversaturate one market.
If you're playing a little too much, it limits your draw ability. So when it comes to my specific events, if I have a local band that's going to play one of my shows, I don't really want them to play in the area like a couple of weeks before or a couple of weeks after, because then they look at my event and they're just like, well, I could just go see them another time. And there's no necessary draw to specifically come to see that band on my show at that time.
His advice for success is to be willing to work hard and promote yourself aggressively. He's booked more than 500 local shows and is a huge supporter of local talent. But before he'll agree to promote a group, here's what he expects from any artist that he works with.
So I've got a lot of local bands that work their butts off for me, and then I've got other local bands that are just like, oh, we're too good for that. Well, if you're too good for that, then I don't really want you to play my shows, because you're telling me that you don't want to do the work to get people to come out to see your band. Because I'm working my ass off to get people to come out and see your band. I expect you to do the same.
Afterwards, there was an audience question portion so that struggling musicians could benefit from some professional advice. And the event? Free of charge. Panels like that one are not the only initiative providing support to local musicians. There's also a huge annual event geared towards recognizing local talent. The Syracuse Area Music Awards, also known as the Sammys. This year, the event kicked off with an intimate Hall of Fame induction ceremony at Dinosaur Barbecue. Inductees were honored for their contributions to the local music scene or for their global success. Among the VIP guests was New York State Senator John DeFrancisco, who agrees with me about the importance of a thriving cultural community.
The music and arts in this community is the heart and soul of Syracuse and Central New York.
He went on to thank all of the Hall of Famers for keeping the music alive. Arguably the most famous person in the room was John Fishman. When he was a kid, Fishman was just a guy from Syracuse playing music in his dad's basement. He went on to be in one of the biggest bands in the world, Phish, but he gives a lot of credit to that basement and to Syracuse.
I am just so lucky and fortunate that I have gotten away with starting in my, as Chris said, the rainy, dark city of Syracuse, where I sequestered myself in the basement for years, to plug away at this thing and then slowly move it out of my basement and make a living at it.
He did more than make a living. Phish has been an active band for more than 30 years, and it's all thanks to the bad weather in Syracuse. Or how about David Rezick, a professor in the Bandier program at Syracuse University and a key player in the local scene. He was recognized as Music Educator of the Year for inspiring a generation of music professionals.
And I'm proud and lucky to have had a small part in the music and songs of Syracuse.
Each and every person honored had only wonderful things to say about the city of Syracuse, which for some of them as musicians is the place where it all began. Here's what some of the other winners and attendees had to say.
It's a great music scene. There's so many guys, so many talented people, and it can really inspire you. If you're really working on your music, there's always a place to go in Syracuse to see someone better than you, or maybe that inspires you. And I always encourage, for me, I was always encouraged too, for being part of the local scene, like I was for years, to go outside and go to Nashville and go to Austin and go to LA. But when you do that, you realize that Syracuse has some great talent of its own. So I think it's a pretty cool scene. Maybe it's the cloudy and crazy weather that makes people go inward on their emotions. Maybe that's it. But I just think there's a lot of great talented people here. I love my hometown, and I'm proud to be from Syracuse. And I tell people every night, no matter where I am in the world, I'm from Syracuse, New York, and proud to be so.
The best rock around can be found right in your own backyard. I've been doing that for 35 years, and I totally believe it. Some of my best friends are musicians. I don't go out to a bar unless there's a band playing. I can drink cheaper at home. So I love the music scene here, and I'm just hoping that more and more people discover how good it is.
What keeps Syracuse thriving?
I don't know, maybe it's some of the things that Chris talked about in his speech, maybe because it's the second cloudiest cloud cover in America next to Seattle, and maybe it just forces you to do different things. Maybe some choices where you don't have any choice but to woodshed because you can't go outside. So you sit in your room, you go down in the basement, play some music, and same thing that Fishman said. That's what you do, and when you're passionate about it, you're going to find a way. You're going to make it happen. And the college is, obviously an influx of things going all the way back to, that songs on the first Velvet Underground record happened on M Street. That's where Lou Reed went to school. The beginnings of what becomes the Velvet Underground are created in his mind on the Syracuse University campus. And all kinds of people from the industry side and the playing side all, filtered through this town at different times.
So now that everybody is in agreement that the Syracuse weather is what's keeping the music alive, let's hear some. The Sammys took place at one of Syracuse's iconic music venues, the Palace Theater in Eastwood. There were performances, speeches, and of course, awards. All of it serves to recognize the talent that exists in the city of Syracuse. A perfect example of that is The Works. The Works was a local rock band that was inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. After meeting as kids in the neighborhood, they played music together for 8 years.
The rhythm section and myself were neighbors. The drummer, Dave Reed, also grew up on Woodbine, right across the street from me. And the bass player, Mike Featherstone, grew up on Hillsdale, which is the street. You could throw the guitars over the fence, and we did, and rehearse, at his mom's house. We played probably 300 one-nighters a year. It was crazy what we did. The city of Syracuse is very much like the city of Detroit. It is, and it is a very blue-collar town that has been, I think, economically devastated. It has a tenacity of spirit.
Syracuse isn't strictly a rock music town. Joanne Shenandoah and her daughter honored their Oneida Iroquois roots in their performance.
Here in Syracuse, we have been gifted with some ancient culture, which is the Iroquois. And the Iroquois believed in music so deeply that they continue those same songs today. And so when you walk on different sacred lands, and when you think about what happens to a person when they hear certain songs, how it transforms you. Same thing that happened to Hiawatha. We have Hiawatha Boulevard right here, So these beautiful songs actually transform the spirit. So I think in Syracuse, we live in an area where there's not much sun, And we live in an area where it's glorious in the summer. But we also live in a place where there have been some of the most amazing creative people ever, that I know of in this city. And I'm just honored to be part of one of those people who celebrate life and celebrate music and the wonders of our natural world.
World music is also a growing part of the local scene. It was represented at the awards show, but perhaps not enough as the community would like. Eche has founded 2 world music and dance groups in Syracuse, but says the local scene isn't as thriving in those genres.
What we just saw, we have that band where we play, and I want to see even more diversity mixed together, because it's been my dream to have some kind of orchestra, world music orchestra, but it all needs support. It's a great place to start on the program, on the categories. I've not seen reggae, and I've not seen world music or something like that. So I would like to see more like that, more stuff like that.
Our type of music it's kind of like a slow here.
But this Syracuse native has high hopes for the future of world music.
I see them opening up their orange hearts, you know what I mean, and bringing more diversity into our music foundation.
Bob Halligan Jr. is another Syracuse native who has gone on to major global success. He's written songs for some big-name artists.
Kiss, Joan Jett, Blue Oyster Cult, Ted Nugent, Joan Jett. I said that.
The list goes on and on. His songs have sold more than 30 million copies over the years. And while he did leave Syracuse to pursue his career in the Big Apple, he eventually came back to his roots.
It's a rich environment. And as we see from the Sammys tonight, Syracusans tend to stick together because these winters create shared adversity. We have to stick together or we'll freeze, stuck to a drain pipe or something. So I meet more neighbors shoveling than I do mowing.
Tim Fox has watched the local music scene flourish over the years from his position in the media. He stressed the value of an event like the Sammys.
I think it's amazing that a community like this can support an effort like the Sammy Awards and say thank you to the music community. This awards ceremony over the 23 or 4 years, however long they've been doing it, is kind of like a family reunion for all different genres of musicians, all different ages, people in their 80s and 90s, down to high school students in bands that they put together. And it is amazing to see how close they all get together.
And what, besides the weather, unites all these people to come together each year?
I think music is a universal language, and everybody feels it, and everybody has a passion for it. It's just the most terrific feeling you can imagine.
We've established that Syracuse is basically an incubator for musical talent, and that the Sammys prove just how committed Syracusans are to the music.
It's the Syracuse music scene. I mean, come on. Fucking awesome, can I swear?
Now the last piece of the puzzle is ensuring that these artists have places where they can showcase their talent. What makes Syracuse a well-rounded cultural incubator is the surprising number of venues that cater to local musicians. The Westcott Theater is just one of them. On the night I visited, it was only the 3rd time that the headlining band had ever performed. Talk about supporting emerging talent. Dan Mastronardi is the owner of the Westcott Theater, and he says that about a third of the acts they bring are local, but they also manage to get major touring acts.
We created a great music culture with what we do here and the other venues that we produce outside of Syracuse.
That's what we're set up for. We're set up to do live acts, national, regional, local. We usually mix local with regional with national.
By mixing and matching local bands with bigger acts, the local guys gain precious exposure, which is just another way that venues like the Westcott Theater help to develop local talent. Charlie Orlando books shows for another venue, Funk and Waffles downtown. He thinks there's plenty of room for improvement in Syracuse.
As far as talent, heads and tails above most places. As far as scene, working on it. That's what we're doing right now. It needs a lot of help. The fans have to support it, and the venues have to support it, and the musicians have to support it.
Venues, awards ceremonies, and helpful sessions all come together to create a nurturing environment for aspiring musicians. Talented people and a dedicated community of supporters make a sturdy foundation to keep the music alive. Perhaps music isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Syracuse, but the thriving scene is a hidden gem within this cloudy city on a hill.